Hello out there. We're going to be talking today about how to choose a frame drum. And for those of you that are new to my teaching, my name's Krista Holland. I'm the founder of the Sacred Drumming Academy, where we learn to play the frame drum in the context of this polycultural history and mythology of frame drumming. Frame drumming is a huge global polycultural ancient and futuristic art form. The frame drums are actually a huge family of instruments of drums. And just for clarity, today we're not focused so much on shamanic drums and shamanic drumming, where you would have the crossbar in the back and often played with a beater or a stick. We're going to be talking about the frame drums that are open in the back, that have the very simple shell of wood and some kind of skin. So I got into frame drumming many moons ago, and it has become a bit of a passion. And I've been on this quest, you could say, a journey to understand, first of all, the ancient polycultural history and mythology and lore connected to frame drums. And I learned this art from my primary teacher, the late Lane Redmond, and she wrote a book on the subject called When the Drummers Were Women, which is a spiritual history of rhythm. And so we're really talking about this polycultural, worldwide art and phenomenon. So on my quest, I've been trying to explore different drums and really find drums that worked for the size of my hands and what I was wanting to do with the drums. So for those of you that might be looking for drums yourself or just interested in the subject, I feel like there's really 5 main kind of points that we can look at when we're looking into drums. What is the context that you're going to be playing the drums? Is it going to be for ritual or ceremony or rites of passage? Are you going to be playing with other musicians? Are you going to be using your voice? And really importantly, the first principle is what style you're going to be playing the drum in. So we have 3 different ways primarily that we play the frame drum. The upright style, we have the lap style, and we also have what's called the freehand style. So depending on which style you're mainly interested in, it'll be a different type of drum. I mean, the drums can actually, you can play in all those different styles, but there are some considerations. So first and foremost, which style of drumming are you most interested in learning or playing? If you're playing on the lap style, really any of these drums that I'm going to show you some of them, maybe we won't go into all of them, but any of these types of drums, simple construction, you might have a 4-inch deep shell or a 3-inch, 2-inch, 1-inch, all the way down to a very narrow shell. And that will give you more stability. For instance, in this Cooperman, this is an American-made Cooperman frame drum. They make artisan, handcrafted, heirloom quality drums. This has a very deep shell. It's got a tuning system in the back, which we'll talk a little bit about. And this is a synthetic ebony suede skin on it. The deep shell feels really great for playing on the lap. The deeper shell is heavier when we're playing in the upright position. So that's a consideration, the weight of the drum. So first and foremost, which style? Are you going to be upright? Are you going to be lap? Or are you going to be freehand? Again, the drums can play in all those styles, but especially if you're going to be playing in the upright position and you might be more petite or have smaller hands, then we want to think about the weight and also what type of grip we have. We'll talk about the grips in another minute or two. So then the other consideration is price. And so the frame drums run anywhere from $45 up into hundreds of dollars, $400 or $500 for an heirloom quality, artisan, handcrafted frame drum. What I often recommend for people that are just starting, and if you're in the lower price point and you just want to explore frame drumming, but you're just still seeing, Remo brand has this very inexpensive, very simplistic, mass-produced. It's got a synthetic head. It's made in America. It's a very simple construction. They will run you about $45 for a 16-inch frame drum. So this is on the lower end of the price point. Again, 45 something. Don't quote me exactly on the price, but somewhere around there. So $45 can get you started, and then all the way up into $400 or $500. So what style are you playing in? What's your price point? What size? So we have everything here. The smallest I have is 14-inch. So 14-inch all the way up to pass through 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch, all the way up into 22 inches and beyond. Can also actually get frame drums even in a 6-inch. So the other concept that you want to think about is what size you're wanting to play. And size will make a difference in the tonality and in the overtones and in the ease of playing upright and also the ease of playing on the lap. So for instance, here's a 22-inch daf, which is the traditional to the Iranian, the Sufi tradition. It has the rings and it's mainly played in the upright style. If you were to try to play this on the lap style, you can see that the arm is going to be really raised up. So if you are playing in lap style, here's an 18-inch. And for my height, I can play this, but I wouldn't play it regularly for practice. This drum is a Remo, and again, American made, very simple construction, synthetic head. And so this drum can be played in the lap style or in the upright style, but it's not going to be so comfortable for someone of my build to be playing in the lap style with this big of a diameter for hours at a time. So in that case, I would practice daily with the 14-inch and then leave the 18-inch for ritual, ceremony, and things like that. So your size of drum. Everyday drumming for people that are more petite, you're going to want to have a smaller diameter. 14-inch, 16-inch max, I would say. If you're larger stature, you can go up to an 18-inch. But again, it's how often are you playing and in what style. The 18-inch, it's also great for upright, but the weight can get a little bit much, again, if you're petite or have smaller hands. So the Remo, again, American made, very simple construction. They're mass produced. You are going to just get whatever's in the batch. There's no way to tune the drums. And so the drums sometimes can go in and out of tune depending on weather. So if it's hotter weather, it'll tend to be a higher, tighter sound. If it's colder weather and you have an animal skin drum, that's going to get a little bit loose sounding. So therefore, these drum makers now are starting to come up with some really amazing tuning systems. For instance, again, Cooperman drum, American-made, beautiful master craftsmen back east are making these drums. So you'll have a tuning system, and the tuning systems can either be with the wrench tuning, and you just tune inside, or there might be a air tuning system. And this one is Brain Frame Drums from Croatia. This is a deer skin, so it's one of the drums that I have that isn't synthetic, and it's really open right now. It's got just a really open kind of earthy sound. Really deep, thick shell, great for lap style. It's a 14-inch, and this beautiful hardwood creates a really nice solid feel on the lap. It's going to be a lot heavier for upright style. So just to review a little bit some of the points, how are you going to use the drum? Which style are you going to be playing most often? Lap style, upright, or freehand? And then what is your price point? Are you just getting started and want an easy way in? You can go for the Remo, R-E-M-O, Remo brand. I'll put some links and tags below. They again are mass produced, and it's an easy price point. I would encourage you, if you are taking to drumming, to seek out one of the master craftsmen around the world, and then you might think about your location. Those, again, on Turtle Island, US. Highly recommend Cooperman, really beautiful drums. I have a artist innovation with Cooperman that we designed together, and it's the Krista Holland artist innovation. We have what we're calling the comfort grip on it, so it's really amazing for upright playing style. One of the most light, if not the lightest frame drums in the Cooperman collection. It's got amazing playability. It's so comfortable. I'm really loving this drum. Also great for lap style. 14-inch, 16-inch, you can go all the way up, 18, and you'll still have that beautiful light playability and with the tuning system. So Turtle Island, US people, check out Cooperman drum. If you are in Europe, Brain Frame, beautiful craftsman drums made in Croatia. If you're down south, the Aussies among us, beautiful Steam and Lumber drums. Love his drums. House down in Australia, just really beautifully crafted drums, so he's one to consider. And there are many other, or a few other, there's actually not that many artisan frame drum builders in the world. I want to give another shout out, or a shout out anyway, to Zelazek in Poland. He has some amazing drums, and I'll also link to drum makers in Greece. So these are some of the things to consider. One other thing to consider is the style of the grip. So you can see that we have the thumb notch, or excuse me, the thumb hole rather, just like what it sounds like when you're playing that upright style, or the thumb notch, and this is what I demonstrated before for the Cooperman. You have the choice actually on the Krista Holland model to do the notch or the thumb holes, and the two thumb holes can be played for what's called the cabaret style. So it's a lot of information, but there's a simplicity to this instrument as well. Simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, though we always start really simplistically on playing, and then your practice can really develop into compositions and playing with other musicians and playing for ceremonies and rituals. So one other consideration, we have what style you're going to be playing, we have the price point that you're interested in, what area of the world you are in might be a consideration, the type of a grip, thumb hole or notch, the depth of the shell and the weight depending on your physique. So again, for smaller people, smaller hands, more petite, the lighter weight are going to be more playable for the most part in the upright position. And then also to consider the overtones. So I'm just going to demonstrate, and what you're going to be listening for is really the reverb, what is coming after the main stroke. And in contrast, so not as many overtones, a little bit more flat and dampened. We could even say a deadened sound. It has to do with the diameter, and it also has to do with the skin. So another consideration is to go with synthetic or animal skin, and people have a personal preference about that. That's really an individual choice. One of the things that we're liking about the synthetic skin is that it really will hold the tone and the tonality really well. It doesn't tend to warp as much in the weather. And the animal skin, there's a beauty to that as well. And if you have a tunable drum with animal skin, that can help so that you can retune if the drum gets too loose, if you are in, a colder, wetter environment. And so then lastly, any bells and whistles on the drum. So traditionally, the drums could be made of very simple construction, but then also often there'll be added bells, rings inside. Sometimes the drums will be painted on the front. There could be a snare, which is connected to the drum called the Bendir. It's got kind of a beehive buzzing sound. And then also your cultural considerations. If you are from a certain tradition and you want to research into the drums of your ancestry or your tradition, that's another way to help you decide on your drum. There are traditional drum makers all over the world that you could seek out. So those are some ideas about how to choose a drum. And really, I think that you can't go wrong just instinctually. You might go to someone's website, or if you have the good fortune to be able to see and hear drums in person, that's great. It's kind of a little bit of a gamble to buy online, but you really can't go wrong, because if you take to frame drumming, and I know some of you already have, then yeah, do be careful, because you might end up with a whole array, jingles, a whole array of drums. And then you'll find that certain drums will call to you for certain occasions. Again, whether you're playing for ceremony, for sound healing, for rites of passage, there'll be certain types of drums that are very resonant and can really bring a deeper quality to those experiences. If you're playing with other musicians, do be mindful of the level of overtones. Sometimes it can be a little bit discordant with stringed instruments, so therefore you might want to have a drum that has maybe a thicker skin and is a little bit more dampened on some of the overtones. But again, that's a personal preference because there's really no formal rules to music. Music being our mother tongue and the drum being the mother tongue. So there's a lot of lore also connected to the drum to do with the drum being made from the wood of the world tree. Often in certain indigenous traditions, the drum makers would choose a drum that had been struck by lightning. And of course we have the different usages and categories of the shamanic drumming style, which is not really what we're talking about so much today. The sacred drumming used in ceremonies and rituals and rites of passage, and frame drumming that is this beautiful family of instruments that is including all the different styles of drums and all the different forms and usages in this polycultural art form that is frame drumming. So I hope that's helpful. Feel free to DM if you have any specific questions on any of the drums, or if you want any more clarity. I'm also going to link and tag to some of these drum makers and some of the artisan craftsmen around the world. Blessed be. Have a great day.